So, remember the Dirt Gently animated series? Well, there was a writers and actors strike last year, so it's been delayed. Again. That's now been resolved, however, and whilst we can't tell for certain what stage the project's at, it's safe to say we are still some way off the final product being released. But don't fret, because Dirt Gently producer and rights holder Arvin Ethan David has something to tide us over in the meantime, a project called Douglas Adams Explains the World. Douglas Adams Explains the World is a crowd-funded audiobook produced by Prodigal Entertainment and Pushkin Industries, and written and presented by Arvin Ethan David, who worked for Douglas, wrote the Dirt Gently play and the Dirt Gently comics, and is the rights holder to adapt the Dirt Gently novels. The project has the full support of the Adams family, along with access to Douglas's archive at St John's College in Cambridge. The idea is that the audiobook is going to explore a series of topics that Douglas wrote on and was passionate about, including conservation and climate change, the internet and AI, space exploration, and alien life, with a series of experts being interviewed on each subject. There are also a lot of analog audio recordings produced by Douglas in the archive that have never been digitized, properly catalogued, or heard by the public before, and the intention is to utilize some of these in the final product itself. Now, there's been a bit of confusion based on the title of the project, and some concerns raised over whether or not this is some sort of AI text-to-speech Douglas Adams zombie being resurrected here. Please rest assured that this is not on the cards at all. The lion's share of this is going to be exploring content Douglas wrote prior to his death, and it's all been being made by real people who are fans of Douglas and are incredibly respectful of his legacy. A number of celebrities are going to be involved who are either friends or fans of Douglas. Arvind has already interviewed Stephen Fry, and he sent out a sample of that interview to those subscribed to the project's email list via the website douglasadamsaudiobook.com. We also know comedian fans Sanjeev Bhaskar and Lenny Henry are being interviewed, along with many others, including James Goss, who novelised Douglas's Doctor Who stories and worked with Arvind on the Dirt Gently play, and, somewhat puzzlingly, David Baddiel, who never met Douglas, and to my knowledge has never even mentioned being a fan of his work before, so the connection is admittedly kind of lost on me, other than Baddiel maybe being a somewhat well-known British comedian and a friend of Arvin's. The big news, as far as a lot of Dirt Gently fans are concerned, is that Samuel Barnett has agreed to record an extensive amount of voiceover and to read excerpts for the audiobook. We know from an announcement made by Arvin that Sam will be performing both new and classic material from Dirt Gently and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, there are a lot of fans who've interpreted this as Sam reprising the version of Dirk that he played in the TV show, and without wishing to throw too much of a dampener on this, Douglas died about 15 years before the show was written. Dirk has written in the original 1987 novel, its sequel, Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul, and the unfinished third novel, Salmon of Doubt, is characterised rather differently to the show. In the novels, he's a somewhat cynical charlatan who ends up believing in his own con. And there are similarities, certainly. Core elements like his insatiable curiosity, his predilection for pizza, and of course his holistic approach and methods towards solving mysteries. They're present in both versions. But his personality and appearance are somewhat different. And needless to say, Douglas did not include a childhood backstory about Dirk being handed over to a secret CIA government agency. However, one thing we do know from Arvind himself is that he is planning to do an episode on adaptations of Douglas's work, including all things Dirt Gently, and this very much opens the door to Sam performing material not written by Douglas. I expect Arvind will have a lot of fun finding different ways to include Dirk in a way that maybe adds to the material, helps transition between segments, or perhaps it is just Dirk reacting somewhat bemusedly towards different adaptations of himself. But if you're going into this expecting Sam to perform an entire new episode of Dirt Gently, then you're going to come away pretty disappointed. In some ways, the audiobook is trying to appeal to two slightly different audiences. People who are there to hear some exclusive, never-before-heard Douglas Adams ideas and content, and people who are, let's face it, mainly there because of Arvin and Sam's involvement and the links to the US Dirt Gently TV show. Personally, I'm right in the middle of that Venn diagram, so I'm going to be happy either way, really. And it's a pretty inspired idea to try and get both sides on board, especially if you're trying to get an animated Dirt Gently TV show off the ground and you want to try and unite and hook those two audiences for future projects. We don't know specifically what Arvind is planning to include, but one of the more interesting items in the archive is a script for an unmade Dirt Gently TV pilot written by Kim Fuller. Kim is best known as the writer of Spice World, the 1997 movie about the pop group, the Spice Girls. But he also had a pretty extensive career beforehand, writing a comedy for TV shows like Not the 9 O'Clock News, Spitting Image, Red Dwarf, and The Tracy Ullman Show. In early 1998, Kim met with Douglas to discuss adapting the Dirk Gently novels to TV for the first time as a half-hour episodic sitcom. Kim ended up writing a draft for an original story in which Dirk, assisted by his secretary Janice Pierce, meets a wealthy and paranoid restaurant owner named Peter Wallace, who, after some persuasion by Dirk, is convinced that there is a plot to assassinate him and hires Dirk to uncover and prevent it. Dirk then comes to suspect that there is indeed a very real murder plot and that he himself is its true target. Kim and wall-to-wall television had the final say over the script, but ultimately it was Douglas's reaction that would make or break the project. In the end, despite liking a few jokes within it, Douglas's reaction was not especially positive, and in his notes he didn't hold back on some of his criticisms. Fearing that without Douglas's rubber stamp approval fans wouldn't tune in, wall-to-wall television quietly shelved the show before it began, and Kim never actually got to read Douglas's feedback until I was able to get it to him with the help of the archive and interview him 23 years later. One of the things Kim told me was that he would love to see the script performed, perhaps with Sam involved. That dream can be partially realised. Right, that's enough speculating. The Kickstarter launches this Tuesday, 24th of September. What's in it for us, the fans? Well, we've been told there are early bird reward tiers and a special tier for the first 42 backers. Arvind has also promised backing tiers offering limited edition swag, including signed and numbered limited edition coffee table books and posters, both based on the audiobook. Personally, having already purchased Kevin John Davies' 42 book, which also used a lot of material from Douglas's archive, and with Kevin's sequel book, all about the making of the 1981 Hitchhiker's Guide TV series, also on the way, I'm starting to think I may need a few new coffee tables.